Okay, welcome back. We are refreshed and renewed, and we are happily doing more 3D printing. Uh, and why is this important or mentionable? Because we don't like to leave the 3D printers sitting idle for too long. Why? Uh, Lots of reasons, kind of being one about the plastic sitting there and we don't cover the machines. Uh, so there may be issues of temperature, especially when we've got the air conditioner going like crazy, or humidity, a lot of other things. So we want to keep the printers rolling. It sounds like a good excuse to me. Anyway, keep printing stuff. I never want to leave them just sitting there for too long. I got to find something to print, and at least for the two FDM printers, to get them both going. Printing something is better than just leaving them there for weeks on end. Sometimes they have been sitting there for more than 2 weeks. For instance, an example would be when you print a cornstalk square. Well, you can't probably see it, but this is a cornstalk square. And because it's fragile, those cornstalks break. So in the future, we won't be printing a big block of corn. We're going to be printing little ones because if you have a big block of corn and some of those corn stalks break because it's plastic and it's hard plastic, then you're out. You have to, throw it away because it looks ridiculous, right? You can't have it just a corn stalk field that doesn't have corn stalks standing. They're broken over. So that's no good. So from now on, we will be printing corn stalks in smaller cubes, squares, which is what we should have done from the beginning, but we were so excited about having a cornfield that we didn't do that. So from now on, we will. And in the meantime, there are alternatives to a corn stalk. A lot of people use various indoor, outdoor plastic carpeting type things you wipe your feet on, and all you need to do is paint it. If it's not already green, paint it green, and then hit it with a yellow top on it, so that it looks like tasseling. Also, in the case of a harvested field, obviously it just has rows of nothing. And you can print that on paper and apply it to cardboard or cardstock or whatever you like. And I wouldn't suggest 3D printing those rows for a field that could be like this big. There's no sense in doing that. You could just as well even just use a marker and a piece of paper, a brown construction paper, and just put black lines on it. Squiggly little black lines look like a plowed field. Anyway, back to the cornfield. So what we'll do is probably start printing little squares of corn stalks. Now, as you can imagine, a resin printer, which we have, would be better because it doesn't have the movement of the head of the printer going for every single corn stalk. That's a lot. And I think what we'll probably do is break out the resin printer because we haven't done it in a long time. And we should probably do the corn stalks in resin. But here is the issue with the resin. In the process of cleaning the resin, which is water-based, the water pressure of whatever it is you're soaking it in to rinse it off, etc., can break the corn stalks. Well, okay. So when it comes to the corn stalks, rinsing them off is more of a soaking than the pressure of any water hitting those corn stalks. Mind you, the plastic is still strong, but you got to bear in mind how you're handling uh, a um, a corn stalk field or square, as the case may be. So I know it's kind of odd, but these things you have to consider when you're handling, especially the resin. And even though it's water based, it doesn't go down the sink. It doesn't happen that way. Do not, again, do not put any kind of resin down your sink. Why? Because we've all heard lately about the microplastics in our society. Guess where they're coming from? The microplastics ending up in your bloodstream. Guess where they're coming from? The industry of plastics is responsible for how much plastic is in our water and our oceans. So I don't care what it takes. Do not put any uh, resin rinsed off from a resin print into the sink. Make a bucket, rinse it off in the bucket, soak it in the bucket, and then cover that bucket and use it again. You don't have to throw it out immediately or anything. Just you can keep using the water to rinse off your resin prints, and then just cover it, leave it, and at some point in the future, after a lot of prints, maybe 10 prints that are about this big, you'll have a water that is filled with residue of resin, and that probably will be enough. I mean, it's not a whole bunch of volume of water. Maybe it's only like this deep of water, but that container, whatever it is, can then just go sit in the sun and let it solidify through the ultraviolet light of the sun, and that will become a block of solid plastic, which you can then, well, throw away, yes, but even then, I would put it in a plastic bag, seal it, and then put it in the trash. I know that sounds bad, but I don't know of any other method of getting rid of a block of plastic. And I don't know of any recycling for resin, and at least in my area, if one even exists. So be responsible, please, with the plastic residue. Okay, so what we're looking at here today, isn't it interesting how all these videos start with some kind of technological rant or thing? And that's because it's top of mind. Okay, we have printed railroad tracks. As you can see on the game table, they're in tan color, which we will paint, and probably paint brown before then stripping the iron rail black. And the reason we're going to paint them brown is because the majority of it is the brown wood uh, uh, rail supports that are on the ground, onto which the iron uh, rail is nailed to, bolted to, and that is put in the ground. That's how it works. That's a rail line. So the majority of the thing can be painted brown, and then if you want to touch it up with gray, representing the rocks, the gravel, or the ballast, as it's called, sure, you can do that. But it essentially, a light colored brown will suffice for the rail line, and then either gray or some other kind of stone representation color underneath. You can touch it up, it won't take long, and you'll have a pretty nice looking rail line. We did that for 10 millimeter, looks fine. So for here in the 20 millimeter scale with our Airfix figures, we can do the same. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention before we go is that we have completed our skirmisher cavalry, not dismounted cavalry. And the reason that that's an important distinction is because a cavalry unit, when it dismounts, becomes a foot unit of 200 men or something like that, 150 men. So a large cavalry, will have to call it a regiment, although it's rarely seen in the Civil War, at least, that many cavalry in one engagement, but it did happen, of course. But when they get to a location and they dismount, those horses are held in the back and the men form up into a combat or, formation. But skirmishers are completely different. Skirmishers are going to be just like infantry skirmishers. They're going to run out ahead of the main line, just like an ancient, same thing. The little skirmishers are going to go out there and feel and test the enemy. That's their function. And in a practical sense, what is the gain of a skirmish line? It's you research it yourself and find out how you want to implement skirmishers and what they learn. They may not learn anything, or that whatever they do learn is immediately known to the commander, to the player, because it's a difficult thing for them to communicate back. In other words, oh, the skirmishers found something that the player can't see. Well, how does that work? Or the skirmishers went around the corner of a forest and they found this. And so how does that work? I don't know. We don't do that. It's just the bird's eye view issue is the problem. But so therefore, what's the function of dismounted, or what is the function of skirmishers? Just to go out there and be a mosquito. That's it. Just go out there, pling, 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 cause some little, havoc. Uh, Maybe get on the flank of a formed unit and just plink at it. Just kind of try and get some irritating little shots at it, and that's it. Uh, the reality of the skirmishers is that they can be irritating. So a player has to be aware of that. We've got some stupid skirmishers firing at our artillery crews from over there. Can we just get some cavalry over there, or can we send somebody over there and get rid of those guys? See, so that's the function. And so we are done painting up our metal. They aren't plastic. Our metal dismounted cavalry as skirmishers. Now, then you might say, well, what about dismounted cavalry that you were just talking about? Here's the fact. Just use a normal infantry unit to represent dismounted cavalry regiment. And why is this important now? Because in our research for the Red River campaign in Texas, 1864, a lot of the horses were missing. They didn't have them for the Confederate cavalry. I don't know about the Union yet, but I think there were many Confederate regiments, um, battalions of cavalry that didn't have horses. They were operating dismounted, not as skirmishers, but they were operating just as foot formed troops with whatever weapons they were carrying. I don't know how many had carbines or whatever. But again, bear in mind, it's not mounted infantry. These are not mounted infantry that no longer have their horses. So they don't have rifles. They have carbines and other types of weaponry. They are essentially cavalry without their horses. So what's their function? Well, as a group of guys to go and accost the enemy, confront the enemy in your normal, you could imagine, cavalry as infantry. But they just have different weapons. They might have muskets, they might have rifles, but the fact of the matter is it's cavalry. That's their main thing, but they just don't have horses. So what are you going to do with them? Well, send them forward, not as skirmishers again, right? Send them forward as a formed body of men, a long line, however many men are in the battalion. And at this point in the war, I don't know, 150 men to a battalion, maybe 200. I don't know if it's a lot. Ergo, when you look at the order of battle for the battles in the Red River campaign, you'll see like 8 Confederate regiments of cavalry. Well, I don't know if it would be accurate to call that a regiment. I guess you could call it a battalion, but I don't know how many men comprised a unit of cavalry without their horses. I've yet to come across that, and I'll find out for sure. But I just don't think it was a lot. If you had 200 men in a regiment, at that point in the war, that would be, if it was cavalry, probably, kind of lucky. Anyway, so there we are. We'll come back, and we're going to be, as far as the turn goes, this is the beginning of turn 3. We've got some troops coming in, like we said in the other video. And yes, we will get to the next turn and resolve this melee going on over here from turn 2. And then hopefully the Confederates will rout and we'll be back to normal. But again, when the Confederates rout from over here, this artillery battery is just sitting here. Nobody's firing at it because this guy's involved in a melee. This guy's beat up. This is the 23rd Wisconsin. He's beat up. He ain't going nowhere. And he's certainly not going to show his face to that artillery. So whatever happens here, then these guns are going to be able to shoot. If these Confederates win and drive these guys away, that's kind of bad news, but I doubt it. Even so, if they did, they'd be picking on both these units over here, as we said in the other video. Okay, that's it. Thank you, and we will return, hopefully, if we apply ourselves to turn number